Hello and good evening, everyone. We have a few more people just entering the room now, so we will hold on maybe just for about 1 minute before we actually kick off. But thanks for attending and coming nice and early. So I could see the admitting people. Yeah, there's a few people coming in, so we just hold on for just a couple more minutes. Excellent. Okay, so Kirit, are you ready, sir?
Ready when you are. Yes, let's go for it.
Well, let's go for it. Let's go for it. So thanks everyone for attending the Forgotten Generation, the impact of COVID-19 on mental health of young Black, Asian and minority ethnic communities. So once again, thanks for coming. I'm just going to once again hold on for a couple more minutes because there's still a few more people coming in. So, but once again, thanks for coming nice and early. We're going to kick off with a lovely poet. But before I do that, I'm just going to ask my partner in crime for the day just to kind of introduce himself, sir.
Thank you, Andrew. Welcome to everyone. My name's Kirit Mystery and chair and founder of a charity called South Asian Health Action. We're also members of the core network. And by day, I'm also a staff at Rota, supporting with the project, the communicating later. So glad, and we've got a great line of speakers, so thank you for them as well. So
excellent. And myself, my name's Andrew Brown, and I'm the Chief Exec of the Croydon BME Forum. Croydon BME Forum, of course, is based in Croydon, but we are one of the infrastructure organisations. Been running for 17 years, and we are here to give a voice to the Black, minority and ethnic people in Croydon, and started to go further afield now as well. So once again, thank you all for coming to today's event, The Forgotten Generation, and it's presented in partnership with quite a few organizations, which I'm gonna say out in a few minutes. But before we do, we're going to ask Jess, if Jess is around. She is a lovely poet, and she's gonna kick us off with a lovely poem. So Poetic Jess is an award-winning Christian speaker and word artist who has previously performed at the Mobos. She uses her spoken word to express her thoughts, concerns, and to share her experiences. So Poetic Jess, we welcome you.
Hi, everyone. Can everyone hear me? If you can I have a, I don't know, hands up or reaction? Yeah, amazing. So yes, I'm Poetess Jess, and it's an honor to be here to share some lovely words. And I know that all of us have gone through a hard time with COVID. So these are just my little testimony, my experience, and I hope that it encourages somebody. Yeah, here we go. days. Oh, my days have been a mad one. See, I struggled with the battlefield in my mind, son. My pitfalls were pit stops, my movements were gridlocked, my mindset was deadlocked. You see, last year I took bare L's in silence. I cried bare tears, but I cried my tears in silence. Concealing the dark undertone to cover up this fearful little girl, comparing my life to these Insta girls. Some days I would cry to God under the covers like a little girl, but he was like, Jess, I've got you covered, girl. Filtering and photoshopping my truth. When truth be told, I incarcerated my voice in a hellhole. While my thoughts ate out the depths of my soul. And please believe me, it wasn't easy. I guarantee thee, I had to roll up my sleeves and get my elbows greasy. I had to put my hands together and ask God to relieve me. He was like, Jess, you are a bruised fruit with a great seed. Nobody told you that this COVID journey was going to be easy, but I've got this all under control, girl. Just breathe. And I couldn't put my sleeves back down because I had bare cuts and bruises. And last year, I clocked that there was a lot of people that I couldn't really fool with. And from that point, I made every point count. From my bank account to my current account to my savings account to my open account. Guys, I even counted my failures. Because when I considered my failure final, Was I finally a failure? See, I don't believe in astrology, but the only stars that failed me are the stars that walked across the stages of society. They had me running after this invisible line, compromising and comparing my life when there was so much potential in the pit of my person. It was a pity that during COVID, I tried to play the role of another person. See, 2020 had me backed against the wall. 2020 had me losing my mind and playing a fool. But 2020, here's it all, because I had more than I showed. I said less than what I know, because I was plotting quietly and humbly so that 2021, I could win and it would manifest fruitfully and humbly. See, I didn't allow my happenings to destroy my happiness. So 2021, I won. And to you guys, all the best. I'm Poetess Jess, and I hope that blessed you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, that was awesome. We won. We won. We survived, right? Yeah, we won. How long are you with us, Poetic Dress? How long are you with us for?
To whenever you need me.
All right, I might be calling you on for another one, you know, so you might have to open up that iPhone and see if you've got another one waiting for us.
I'm there. You got me. I'm there.
Bless you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So over to my partner in crime to introduce the first guest. You're on mute if you can hear us. Oh, sorry. It's my fault. I need to say the rules first. So let me do the rules first, if you don't mind, and then I'll pass it back over to yourself. So once again, thanks for joining us for the Forgotten Generation discussion, where we want to hear from you young people who are on board today. But before we do, we just have to remind everyone that we are being recorded. So this is on this being recorded. So as always, if you do not want your face to be on YouTube or anything, please make sure if you are going to speak, you take your camera, you put your camera on. Please keep yourself mute if you're not talking. We all know what happens when too many people are talking. During the discussions, you might get triggered for some of the discussions that might be happening today. So if you look in the chat, and that includes on Facebook and YouTube, you will see some telephone numbers and some organizations that you can reach out to, as well as reaching out to some people on here today. So we've got at least 2 people who are monitoring the chat. Please feel free to reach out to them. One of the names are Annie, and another one is Corit as well. So if you do feel like you need to reach out to anybody with regards to any of the discussions, please make sure you do so. We are also live on the Rota Facebook and YouTube. So, if you do get dropped out on, please, tell your friends as well to join us on the Facebook and YouTube. And last but not least, we will be sending everyone a evaluation form to fill in at the end of the event. So can we ask you please to fill in that evaluation form? I've been told it's only about 5 questions. So please fill it in and send it over to us so that we can know how it all went today. So, Karit, over to you, sir.
Thank you, and excellent, Paul. Yes, that was lovely to kick us off. So the first speaker, we're really glad to have Jermaine Jackman. He's from the Bearbub Foundation, but also a successful singer who rose to fame on the popular BBC singing competition, The Voice UK. Since then, Jermaine also chairs the Islington Fair Futures Commission, and from 2017 to 2018 has chaired the Hackney Young Futures Commission since 2019. He's also been a youth advisor for the National Citizenship Service Trust since 2019, and he founded in 1987 Caucus in April 2020. So without further ado, he's also very active with the Black Men in Labour. So without further ado, can I give the floor to Jermaine to take us over and give us our presentation.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. I don't know where you're joining from around the world or watching us from around the world, but thank you so much. I want to start by thanking everyone at Rota. and for organizing this, for inviting us down to speak. I want to give a massive shout out to Poetess Jess. Sis, powerful. Thank you so much for that. You really blessed us with that poem. Thank you so much for that introduction. My name is Jermaine Jackman. I'm a singer-songwriter and an activist, a full-time troublemaker. And that's what I do in my spare time. I'm a student as well, but not for too long, because I'll be graduating soon. And I want to talk a bit about the COVID-19 pandemic and the impact that it's had on young people. A lot of my work has been with young people during this pandemic. But I want to start off by talking about and giving you an overview of the pandemic and my perspective of it. And the reason why I'm starting with this top level first, and then we'll speak on a grassroots perspective, is because it kind of reflects and it sets the tone. Because as soon as the pandemic started, we saw a series of failures from our government, from governments around the world. A failure in partnership at a time where we needed countries around the world to come together and look outwards. They started looking inwards and only caring about their own when we were facing this global pandemic together. And it made me wonder, is it going to be aliens that's going to make the world come together? Because if it's not going to be a pandemic, what will it be? We saw a failure to prepare. Our government had passed tests on our NHS, and it said that it was not able to contain a pandemic-like disease that would riddle our country. We saw a failure to prevent some of the outcomes that we saw, the disproportionate outcomes that we saw. And we saw a failure to provide for some of the most vulnerable in our country. Now, I was talking to some young people about the pandemic, and one of them asked me, what does exacerbated mean? What is every single time I'm hearing panel discussion, they say, oh, the COVID pandemic exacerbated the inequalities. And I said to them, think about this analogy. You haven't cleaned up your bedroom for a whole week, and your bedroom's in a complete mess. And you know those one where you're just too busy to actually just fold up the clothes and everything's, your room is a closed bombshell, right? And then you said, okay, I'll leave it to the weekend. Here comes Saturday now, and you want to go out clubbing. So you do up your makeup, put on your nice clothes and everything. And then you come back from a night out and you turn on the lights and you see the absolute state of your room. You always knew the mess was there. You might not have caused it, but you always knew the mess was there. And what the COVID-19 pandemic did was just turn on the lights to the whole world. But for Black and other global majority communities here in this country, knew the mess was already there, knew the inequalities were already there. The only difference is we didn't cause it. We didn't cause the inequalities, but we knew what was there. And what the COVID-19 pandemic was just flip the switch. And I will be honest that I got politically, emotionally, and mentally exhausted by it all. You had the death of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. You had the disproportionate deaths of coronavirus. You had cases and scenarios like Belly Majinga. It was a lot to take on. It was a lot to process. It was a lot to even navigate. Because you had stories talking about, oh, is it genetics? Yeah, you had stories of Black and other global majority communities being twice as likely to die from the pandemic. And now we find out that it's because of Black people working on the front line. It's because of our brown brothers and sisters doing those jobs, working on wards 24/7 and keeping our country going. That's the reality. And for young people, with the commissions that I chaired in Hackney and in Islington, we already knew what the challenges were. One of the tasks that Hackney Council asked me to do was to have a conversation with some of the young people in front of McDonald's, because a lot of people are saying they're causing antisocial behavior. And I'm always here to dispel myths. When I got up to those young people, they all said, we're just here for the free Wi-Fi. That's all we're hanging in front of McDonald's doing. We're here for the free Wi-Fi. And we knew that when the pandemic will come, that these issues will be stretched and will be strained. And the government failed to provide and support some of those families on those estates around the country. And that's the reality for a lot of young people. A lot of young people struggled with the pandemic. We talk about families, we talk about adults, working from home. Yes, that's great. But at what point in this whole entire pandemic, because we're still living in it, at what point in the last 20 months have we actually taken a time to create a space to listen to the voices of children and young people? At what point have we had a COVID briefing where we just said, all right, you know what, let's just hear the questions from young people. Let's just see what young people are going through. How can we support our young people? That's the reality of it. Young people are growing up and been in lockdown in overcrowded homes. No green space for them to play. They didn't have access to certain youth services. They didn't have any access to social services when they were at home. And that's the reality. So I wanted to make sure that we were listening to young people during the lockdown, during the pandemic. So I created the COVID conversations in Hackney, where we brought decision makers in Hackney into the same space as young people. And the rule was the mayor of Hackney is not allowed to speak for the first 35 minutes of the meeting. Can't talk. Zip it. Don't say nada. Because what we need to do right now is listen. And this is what we talk about in terms of moving towards a post-COVID world. I'm tired of politicians just talking for the sake of talking. Tired of it. We now need people to actually listen to the lived experiences of children and young people up and down this country. I knew that we are currently living in a society where mental health support is embarrassingly and shamefully low from this government. And it's nowhere near in a position to prepare for the mental health crisis we're about to encounter. Not we're about to encounter, because we're already encountering it. I organized a program, and I'm mindful of time, so I'll wrap up real quick. A program called My Voice and Me, where we were able to use creativity as a way for young people to express themselves. And it was a 6-week program over the months of March to July, and in different schools in Islington. And at the end of it, they were able to write their own songs, write their own poems, write their own speeches. And nearly every single student spoke about death. They spoke about death in their final performance. And it wasn't recent death. It was the death of a grandparent 5 years ago. It was the death of their dog 3 years ago. And I was like, damn, why are all these young people talking about death? These are kids at the age of 12, 13, 14 years old. They're talking about death. And then I realized every single day for the last 20 months, that's all we've heard. That's all we've seen. Death numbers. How many deaths of COVID around the world, in this country, in your community? They know somebody. So it's triggering a suppressed trauma inside of those young people. And if we do not have the support network in our schools, in our youth clubs, through our youth services, our youth services that should be fully funded, then we are going to see an even worse crisis than most of us anticipate. I'm really fearful for the future. And I'm going to wrap up here. I'm really fearful for the future. So when we talk about, let's work towards a new normal, I don't want things to go back to normal. And hear me clearly, I do not want things to go back to normal. Because normal never worked for Black and brown people. Normal never worked for women and girls. Normal never worked for young people on estates. Normal never worked for the most marginalized of communities. Normal never worked for global majority communities. Normal never worked for us. What we want is a better normal than before. That's what we want. That's what we're working towards. And that's why I helped set up the Baobab Foundation, which is looking at raising over £1 billion for Black and brown-led organizations in the country, where we already have a few hundred million, and we're looking to launch that fund from next year, January. And I know some of our members are here. We have a grown membership of over 300. I see some of our members shaking their head now. Proud members, I might add. And And this is what I mean by being radical, being different, being transformative, being outside of the box, and thinking differently. Because the community organizations who were hit the hardest are the Black and brown led ones. The ones who had to go above and beyond, who weren't getting the funding before and definitely ain't getting the funding now, and who had to volunteer their time to ensure that the people on the ground had that support. And this is the grassroots point that I'm going to end with. It's about shifting the power and putting power into their hands. You decide where the money goes, you set the agenda, you fund the issues that we should need to tackle. Forget about these echelons and the big funders and how we've got all of these smaller organizations fighting each other and wrapped around their little fingers. Though that way of working needs to stop. Come together in a form of solidarity, work with one another, and let's tackle the injustices, the inequalities that plague our society together. Let's do that together. And that's how we build towards a better normal, not just a new normal, because we don't want a new normal. We want a better one. Thank you so much for having me. God bless you. I have my dissertation right in front of me that I need to submit by midnight, so I can't stick around for too long. But if there are any questions, please do shoot away.
Jermaine, wonderful, excellent. Because I'm looking at the chat, I'm looking at how many people are saying amazing, wonderful. Listen, we would love to invite you. I think we actually need to have a night with Jermaine, because I'm sure you could have actually talked for a whole, and sing, of course, as well, you know, for a whole evening. But thank you so much. Just something that you just mentioned is, you know, we adults, we people in authority or you know, or have the ears of certain people, but we have to make sure that we listen to the young people of lived experiences. You know, I think that's something that we that we haven't done, and I think something that we have to make sure we do as well. And you know, I had a meeting with somebody today, and I can't say in case she's listening or whatever. It's on YouTube now, but it's like if this particular person has forgotten what all the changes of the last 18 months, right? All the things that has progressed, and as he said, has now given Black and brown and migrant people a voice. It's like if she wanted it to kind of go back to how it was 2 years ago, and we're like, no, because we weren't sitting around those tables 2 years ago, but we're sitting around those tables now. Yeah. So listen, I have to move on, but Jermaine, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Listen, all the young people in here, can we just, you got your reactions on Zoom? Let's just put up a little hands or little those little whistle things as an appreciation for Jermaine, please. Karit, are you here? Are you here, sir? Are you here, or is it me going to be talking again? Karit, are you here? Are you here? Yes, sir. Do you want to introduce our second guest speaker? You are on mute. Can I just remind everyone joining us as well that there will be time, we will be having a breakout room as well. Okay, so there will be a time where you will be able to speak back to us and have a chance to tell us what's on your mind as well. Correct, over to you, sir.
Thanks, Andrew. And again, big up to Jermaine for the excellent messages. And you're right, we've got to take control, and we've got to put the decision makers to come to us. And well done to, again, the foundation as well. So good luck with your dissertation. Okay, the next speaker, and we're proud to have, is Armani Simpson. Armani is an award-winning social entrepreneur and youth coach. His social enterprise is called Avid Inspires, CIC. It exists to empower young people through personal development, digital media, and enrichment. So without further ado, Armani, welcome to the event. Can we unmute Armani, please?
Can you hear me? Yeah?
Yes, loud and clear.
Cool. Thank you for having me, guys. Big up Jermaine as well. Big up Poetess as well. You know, my people. It's always good. And thank you guys at Rota for having me down. I'm just going to share my screen. And then I'll share my story or part of it. So, yeah, following on from what Jermaine said before, you know, lockdown was, well, this whole last kind of 18 months or so has been very, very difficult for a lot of people, especially young people. And so I decided to title my presentation today, Growing Through Crisis. And I felt like it would be a suitable title because I think that's what a lot of people did last year. We grew, and it wasn't an easy environment for us to grow in, but you know, it's one of those things where I think the last year, a lot of things kind of just took us in a different direction. So yeah, hopefully in this presentation, there's some hope and inspiration that I can give you guys in the audience. And you know, we've still got a long way to go, but I'm hoping that you guys are in a good space when, you know, obviously we're connecting today on Zoom. So a little bit about me. As I was introduced, I wasn't introduced this way, but I am a member of the human family first and foremost, before all the titles, before all of that kind of stuff. I'm a member of the human family. I'm a child of God. I'm happy to be here. And yeah, when we start getting into titles, I'm a storyteller, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a youth coach. I also run an organization called Aviard Inspire. Wow, that's never happened to me before. I need to drink some water. Completely lost my voice. Aviard Inspires, which is a CIC. And I'm also a governor of a London secondary school and a trustee of a leading creative college. Some of you might know me from my short film. I created a short film a couple of years ago called Armani, starring Jermaine Jackman, which basically showcases my story. I got stabbed 7 times when I was 21, and only by the grace of God, I'm still here, and I'm able to shine light in environments for young people, and I'm blessed to do that. And so I wear that kind of that position with pride, and yeah, to be here today, as I said, is an honor. Thank you for having me. So look, how did it start? How did last year start for me? So when it first kind of, I guess, hit me, I actually had just turned 30 when lockdown first kind of happened. My birthday was on, I think they announced the first lockdown maybe the week of, maybe it was like the 17th of March, and I was 30 on the 19th. And so I had my whole birthday planned, like all my people coming down. I was ready to turn up. Jess is nodding her head because she got the invite as well. I was ready to turn up. I had a party kind of planned and stuff. And then overnight, literally just boom, nothing's going on. And I remember kind of keeping the invite going, the Eventbrite going, and saying, yeah, a couple months, we'll be back. All now, I'm all 31 now, and I still haven't celebrated my birthday. But, you know, this is what happens, and we have to adapt. But at the beginning, if I'm being honest, it caught me slipping. And my mental health suffered because I had never anticipated anything like that. I'd spent the last 18 months or so, 2 years, kind of really building up a name for myself, telling my story, building contacts, getting ready for different contracts and partnerships. And then suddenly overnight, boom, no bookings, no schools, no engagements. And I remember my manager saying to me, look, you know, during this time, you can either sit still or you can keep moving, and you know, don't look at maybe some of the priorities you had before. Try and, you know, just offer things to people. Just be the person that you always are, and just serve. And so I guess I just kind of went to the front line, and I said, okay, what can I do? And there was many different things that I did for other people, which I'll get to. But first and foremost, I had to kind of get my head into a place of I guess, productivity, of even just being present. And the first thing I started to do is I started to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I decided that by doing that, I'd get extra hours on the day. It would start me off right. I started to go for walks. I started to go into nature. I live in the countryside, and you know, went out and went into greenery first thing in the morning. I prayed. I kind of aligned myself, and I said, look, you know, today's a mission. You got to do something, rather than just sitting on my sofa, which is kind of what I've been doing for a few weeks, if I'm being honest. I also broke a few kind of childhood barriers that I had. I started running because, yeah, I used to hate running. I can't even lie to you, but I really got into my fitness, and you know, it kept my mental health just at a place of optimism, I guess, you know, or realism, right? You know, it wasn't all about being positive. There was a lot of hard things that happened last year, but I knew that all I could do was all I could do, and I could just control the day as it came. And I also decided I wanted to become a life coach. And in all of that, I guess one of the biggest things that I did is I was bold, and I didn't kind of just sit back and say, look, you know, I'm not going to do anything. I just took leaps of faith. And one of those leaps of faith was a campaign called Our Lockdown. Now, our lockdown for me started in my in my office, or I think maybe my bedroom. I just had this idea of, the news are talking constantly about young people, but they're not talking with young people, similar to what Jermaine said. And that really, really bugged me, because young people have amazing voices. They should be at the forefront, as Jermaine has said before me. And, they just weren't in that position. No one was really asking them how they felt about lockdown. They were showing all these statistics and saying how it was going to affect them. And I thought, look, I've got a following of young people, and I've got a responsibility. So let's put them at the forefront. So I decided to create this campaign. I'm going to play you a little bit of this video.
Hi everyone, I'm Armani McQueen. I'm 11 years old and I'm the founder and CEO of my own company called Dipalicious. And I'm the youngest award-winning vegan chef in the UK and the youngest restaurateur in the world. The one thing that has made me smile during lockdown is that I get to spend more time with my family and play board games, especially Snakes and Ladders, because majority of the time I'm winning.
Hi, my name is Femi Oyeniran. The one thing that I won't take for granted after this lockdown is the fact that health is wealth. We have to do what we can to stay in the best possible shape.
Hey guys, I'm Tamara, I'm 14, and one thing that makes me smile during lockdown is spending time with my family and enjoying the sun.
Hi, my name's Caleb and I'm 12 years old. One thing I've learned is that I'm capable of doing stuff that I never thought I was capable of doing. Like cooking, building stuff, like being creative.
My name's Mario Senso, I'm 16 years old. One thing I feel that's put a smile on my face during quarantine is the fact that I'm being able to spend more time with my family and my siblings, getting to see them, getting to know them more, getting to spend more time with them.
The thing that's made me most smile in lockdown is baking with my family, learning how to cook new meals and doing lots of dance lessons online with the company that I dance with, Boy Blue. And that's really taken my mind off that I can't go outside.
Hey, my name's...
Hi everyone, I'm Armani McQueen. I'm 11 years old.
It's okay. Back to the people, and I hope
Sorry, guys.
appreciate...
Let me show you this last one. I was about to cut it, but he's last.
...is the sense of community. And I feel as if everybody in their houses and people not allowed to be social has enabled us to really deeply appreciate what we had prior, which was unlimited access to people. And I hope that this division really does help us get back to the fact that we are a community, no matter with race, gender, religion, anything. As long as you're human, it's okay. So I just want that greater sense of community to be established and reinstated, if you will.
Just remember guys to stay safe, stay humble, be yourself, and your flaws make you unique. Bye!
Okay, now I'm conscious of time, so I'm not going to go through all of the different things that I had lined up. But essentially, the reason I showed you that video is because I feel like young people similar. I keep saying Jermaine, where's Jermaine? Is he still here? I should bring you up again, bro, because we're on the same page. You've got to put young people at the front. You've got to. As you heard there, they framed it in a different way. They looked at the positives of how last year was, and as much as it was hard, they were still trying to be optimistic. And I feel like one of the things that definitely helped me last year as well, alongside all the other different things that I got to do, was the work of my own mental health. I just completed 3 to 4 months of therapy, because I felt like, as much as I'm in a good place myself, it's important to have that conversation with yourself. So if there's anyone in the audience that hasn't ever really considered that, I would definitely strongly advocate for that, because I think a lot of the time we can hold things in and kind of act like everything's all right, but sometimes it isn't it's really important to just hold that mirror up, and a good therapist will do that. They'll just hold a mirror up and say, how you doing today? What do you want to talk about? So as I said, there's lots of things I could speak about, but today's not really about me. This is about just showcasing that young people should be at the center. I'm happy for platforms like this that are asking key questions. And I always end my talks with this: if your mind can go there, your feet will follow. And my mind went there. Many other people's minds went to a particular place last year. And sometimes that's the reason why we're still here now. So God bless. Please connect. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. And I look forward to speaking to some of you a bit later.
Yes. Wow. Wow, it just gets better and better. Armani, well done for that, man. Guys, can we just have some? Listen, I know if we were in a nice hall or in a nice nightclub, we will be clicking our fingers and all that stuff. So we're not on. We're on Zoom. So please put up all your nice emojis, please. Listen, something I just got out of that was. And if you don't mind, I'm going to use this on a new T-shirt, man. You've just given me my new T-shirt. Sit still or keep moving, man. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Don't sit still, keep on moving. So that's my new T-shirt, which I'm going to get branded out tomorrow. No royalties are coming over to you, sir. So you know what I mean?
That's fine. I didn't say that. So it's cool. It's all you, bro. Run that.
Tell me what you said, sir.
No. I'm saying I didn't say those exact words. So you can have that. That's
I can have that. You don't mind?
Yeah,
you sure?
Can have that. No,
all right,
good,
man.
That's you.
And listen, can I just ask all the young people as well who's here as well? And we haven't got time to bring you in at the moment, but I'm going to pose a question and I want you to go into the chat. So part of the video that Armani was showing was, they were saying one thing that they've done during the lockdown, so please just fill up the chat and tell us one thing differently and, that you have now made a change for yourself. So please fill up the chat with all of, and what we do, we try and read some of them out as well. We won't say your name, but we just read it out. So please fill up the chat with one thing that you've been able to do during lockdown. Have you started a business? Have you gone to college? Have you finished? You tell us what you've done. Correct. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. And okay, our next speaker is somebody I'm fortunate to have worked with for over the year now. So it's I'd like to welcome Sachdev Saib. She's the co-director of Happy Heads, a non-profit organization, but also a leading mental health advocate and a public speaker. So without further ado, Sachdev, it's all yours.
Wow, thank you so much, Kirit. That was absolutely amazing. I feel so inspired by Jess, by literally everybody. It's just been really, really emotional as well and really, really hard-hitting. So completely resonate with everything that's been said, and we're all here for the young people and children. So thank you so much, Race and Call, for having me. I really appreciate it. So a bit about me. I'm Sachdev. I'm Sachdev Saib. I'm a mental health advocate, as Kirit mentioned, and a philanthropist as well. But a little bit about me, about where I was before and where I am now. So I personally suffered mental health, and I was diagnosed with anorexia nervosa and body dysmorphia disorder and obsessive compulsive disorder back in 2014. So this was many years and many moons before pandemic even happened. And I was at this point where I was at war with my own mental health, with the way I looked, with the way other people perceived me, being in school, going through the whole educational system, university, you name it. And I've been through so much and I've seen so much, and experience comes with age, and I've learned so much. And I also, and it's coming up to 7-8 years, but on the 29th of August 2014, I tried to take my own life. And it was in the midst of depression, feeling so low and feeling so lonely that you are unable to reach out, and you're constantly staring at the four walls in your room, and you're constantly ruminating thought after thought after thought. And I went through quite a tough childhood. Looking back on it, I was always picked on. I was always named and shamed. I was always treated differently in my own family, in my extended family. Being from an Asian background, culture is at its core. And it was a very strict upbringing. We had to go to temple and we had to do religious things and in our culture. So mental health was literally a taboo topic. No one talked about it. It was seen, sorry to say this, it was seen as a dirty secret. No one wanted to be able to talk about mental health. There was so much taboo and stigma around it. And we are still in the same position till this day. And for children and young people out there, million times worse. They are going through so much at the moment. There's not enough time in the day to go through it really with yourselves, but they're going through so much at the moment. So I guess going back to my attempt, that few moments when I was going through that moment of just trying to take the life out of me, it's just, you just hear these two conflicting views in your mind, the angel and the devil. You know, the angel saying, you need to be here, you know, you're young, you've got so much to give to the world, and people love you, you're here for a reason. And the devil saying, you are not worthy of living anymore, you're not worthy of breathing or being here, you neglected your family. They will never understand. You will never make them understand. I had those conflicting views in my mind, back and forth, when I was trying to take my own life. Tears streaming down my eyes, squeezing every inch of every breath that I have. And it was hard. I never felt so alone than I did in those few minutes, what felt like hours. And it was my mum that was my savior. And I've had so much faith in God. And I heard her voice. She took me out of it. She was my angel. And immediately, as a family, and I'm so humbled to have a family that I have, immediately went to seek private therapy. And I was still on the waiting list for the NHS secondary psychological care, a 7-month wait. But I know for many young people out there, it's longer than that. It's hard hitting. And you feel even more alone, knowing that there is no hope. There is no sort of help around the corner. And that was my calling. That's where my life took a turning for the better. I started to take antidepressants as well during my therapy. And what Armani mentioned around therapy, looking back on it, it was a white person. I wasn't talking to a person of color that looked like me. I didn't know where to start, where to begin. It was challenging. It was daunting. And I hated myself. Part of me just hated myself, thinking, what am I doing here? You know, why am I in this therapy session? What is it? Am I doing it for myself, or am I doing it for my family? And it turned out I was actually doing it for my family, to keep them quiet, you know, just to make them happy. As the sessions progressed, I learned to deal with the person sitting next to me not being of the same color or background as me, but saw it as an opportunity to just let it out, to share everything. Bit by bit, I gradually did that. And I started to see a change in me, not immediately, but I started to see a change happen. So 4 or 5 weeks into therapy, I started to see a difference within me. I started to not look at celebrities, at media, TV, comparing my body, having this perception of what I think people think I look like. I thought I looked like a monster, fat, chubby, disgusting. All these different things amongst the whole label and stigma around a person of color being able to take their own life or attempt to take their own life. When you are dealing with a person of color with a mental health background, mental health issues and support out there becomes complex for them, because you are now dealing with a multitude of issues in that person. And you are treated differently. And I got that. I experienced that. And I got treated differently. I was seen most of the time out as an outsider. And I knew right there and then that I want to be the voice for young people and children. I want to stand up for them. And I want to say, you know what, we are here. I am one of you. I want to help you, and let's make that change happen together. So fast forward 2016, charity, philanthropic work was my calling. I became a Time to Change champion. I became a member and a volunteer for Rethink Mental Health charity. I became a volunteer for Samaritans. And I went onto this advocacy journey. And just last year, a documentary around my film, around my journey, Angel and the Devil, Breaking the Silence, was released. And I'll send the link in the chat shortly. And it led to so many opportunities, being able to talk to young people, speaking and sharing my story at schools, to year 7s, to year 11s, putting on workshops for young people, being able to become a co-director of Happy Heads, which is my own non-profit mental health organization, and reach out to kids out there. And this is the thing, people don't take kids seriously, right? And then to add on top of that, they don't take them seriously, especially when it's a person of color. And so many trials and tribulations we've gone through, this group. And we are a minority, but we will never be always a minority, that's for sure. And it's received, that film has received so much accolade across the world, UK and internationally. It won, it was part of the IFFSA Canadian Film Festival and the Australian Canberra Festival. So to know a little bit more about me, I know we're stuck for time, please watch that documentary. And I just want to close it here to say that you are never alone. You are never, ever alone. And there's always going to be somebody out there to hear you, hear your story, and just have that hope and that faith that it will happen. And please love yourself in the process. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Sandy. Guys, you know what I'm going to ask you to do? Let's do the emojis. Let's do the emojis. Let's give some love to Sandy as well. So what you need to do, you need to go into the chat. You need to go into the chat and just see the love that has come out to you all over the last few minutes. I'm just going to read one, just saying, you are so brave and courageous to speak about this openly in public. Well done, and I'm so glad you managed to deal with it and come out of it brilliant. So, you know, just well done. And as I said, please read through the chat because it's just pure love coming out to you. And one of your words, you said that, you know, young people, you are never alone. Yeah, that's one of the words I've just written down. You are never alone. At this point, I'm just going to ask, I know that Annie did have some stuff, some numbers and people who were able to contact. So if you do need to reach out to anybody, if that has affected you or you like more information, please keep an eye on the chat and we will be posting some numbers and email addresses for you to contact if need be. Once again, thank you so much. We will now be moving on to our next speaker. So Kurt, over to you, sir.
Just what we're going to do is just change the order slightly. So we're going to get our next.
Go for it. Oh, you're on mute, sir.
Sorry. Okay. We're going to just swap the agenda slightly, just so we're going to get our next spoken words poet, Sharifa Energy.
Okay.
Due to other commitments. So thank you. Without further ado.
You're on mute, my dear. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate everything that I've heard so far. I definitely echo the reality, and yeah, I echo and promote for people to access mental health services. I myself was in therapy, not so much during like the COVID, like related to like the COVID situation, but I've also had like PTSD in my life and I've had like a lot of therapy. So yeah, I definitely encourage it. And especially now the fact that everyone was isolated, not talking to people, not like used to maybe their normal networks, or people are just re-emerging. and connecting with those networks. So definitely whatever services are being recommended today, I really encourage people to continue to access them. I'm a poet and also a creative writing facilitator. And part of the work that I do, I've worked with a lot of people in terms of writing poetry or creative writing, learning to express themselves in a way that's beneficial for their mental health. And at the same time, I've worked with women when they come out of prison. I've worked with male asylum seekers, children, young people, all the rest of it. So I do offer those type of services as well. But yeah, I'm going to share a poem with you all. It's called Free Fall. And this is an exclusive poem that I'm going to share with you all. I've actually done it as part of a project as part of a project. So this will be coming out soon. And yeah. So it originally started off, I was given a lot of words in terms of how people, it was first, the inspiration behind it came from like in South Africa. There was like a lot of people that were interviewed. They were made to like, it was kind of like they jumped off like a trampoline, kind of like a bungee. And then they described words which related to what the lockdown meant to them. So then I took those words and I created this. Free fall, losing control, inability to plan ahead, travel restrictions, unable to attend funerals, stillness, forced to sit with ourselves, reflect on priorities, decide on our base, whether to relocate, frantic to fill time, yoga, Muay Thai, classes on Zoom, planting seeds in the garden, same storm, different ships, those living on estates in tower blocks, claustrophobia, suffocation. Some can't work from home, no option for furlough. Not everyone had state grants to lean on. When would restaurants reopen? When will he get his next paycheck? When can he fly home to visit his mum's grave since COVID stole her? Once home, now empty, food banks full, communities mobilizing, faces pressed against windows of care homes, final goodbyes on FaceTime, migrant grandmothers taken to hospital, can't remember her bearings, can't speak English, traumatized, calling for her son, not allowed in the hospital, endless queues outside Tesco, hand sanitizer, hand sanitize, weddings cancelled again, cancer treatment cancelled again, COVID takes precedence only. Disappointed, terrified, stressed, shocked, afraid, hauntings from years ago make him feel crazy. Vulnerable, challenged, unprepared for change, reflective, considerate, enlightened, expansive, frustrated, annoyed, soul crushed, long interrupted intermission, uncontrollable sadness, corruption, breathless, uneasy, death looming, statistics piling, those bearing the brunt persevere, disabled people only just given opportunities to work from home, a holiday for those in their mansions with gardens, parks closed, swings inaccessible, weight gain, trampolines packed away, no bungee jumping, no swimming, no abseiling, no rock climbing, theme parks closed, no taste of adrenaline, mental health declining, connections fading, safe spaces snatched away, parks overcrowded, children with one laptop between them squabbling to attend school from home. Marcus Rashford stepped in, made demands for the ignored, thoughts for those most marginalised, those seeking asylum, those in foster care, in homes with domestic violence, in 24-hour bang-up in prisons, those sleeping on the streets, unable to maintain anti-vax for hygiene, the violence of the pandemic, death difficult to process, our experiences weren't the same. Thank you so much. And if anyone enjoys reading poetry, I've got a poetry collection as well, Galaxy Walk. You can get off my website, sharifaenergy.com, and definitely continue the conversation. Speak to me. I'm happy to talk to people, even if any of you want workshops being, just like would like me to do any workshops with any of the service users that you might work with. I'm happy to do that. So keep in touch. My email address is sharifaenergy@gmail.com. I'll leave my contact details. But thank you so much for having me and for having this amazing event.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Can you please make sure just put your details in the chat as well, Sharika, as well, if you can. And guys, let's have some emojis for that. That was really good. I love that. Let's have some emojis. Show some love. I'm not seeing the love. Or is it going? Can I not see it? Yay, now I can see the love. Now I can see the love. All right, let's move on. Correct, who do you want to introduce next?
Okay, so we're going to introduce Annie Gibbs. Annie Gibbs is from Amor Destiny, and she's a director of Amor Destiny, a community interest economical status of Black women in the UK. And sorry, over to you, and you can introduce even more powerfully yourself. But thank you for the previous two speakers. Amazing, good, great inspiration. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for the introduction, and I'm really grateful to be a part of this discussion today. Thank you to the core team for inviting me, and also I just want to say I'm really feeling the energy from all the previous speakers and the spoken word artists. So thank you so much for just being real and just sharing. So I'm Annie. I'm just going to wait for my prompts, and I'll be honest, I have PTSD, and that's the reason why I decided I wanted slides today, because I'm actually going through therapy similar to what Armani was sharing earlier on when he did his speech, and I just need my little prompts to assist me, so I'll just wait for them to set it up. Okay, I'm not sure whether because what I can see this side I don't know whether it's full screen or not. That's fine, it's fine. We don't have to go with the slides. I'll just carry on. So I'm Annie Gibbs, and I am the founder of Amor Destiny, and we are a care experienced survivor-led organisation, and we provide support to women and girls who have experienced similar experience to our own. And what we oh, sorry, can you hear me? Have I lost connection?
Oh, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Ah, okay, apologies, sorry. So the reason why I started Amor Destiny is, as I said, I have a lived experience of being in care. I lost my mum when I was 8 years old, and I was also a child survivor of domestic abuse. And I was extremely frustrated with the current situation still being very similar to the situation that my mum was in, where being a Black woman who had not very good English in the UK, not a very big network, found it incredibly hard to navigate services. And I was finding that the women who I'm supporting are experiencing similar issues today. So I wanted to create a solution for that, and I wanted to provide them with support so that they could ensure that they get the right help and know where they can get that help. So if I move on to the next slide, sorry. So what we do is we unite Black women and girls in a safe environment. During COVID, we had to adapt our services, and our services, we held them online as well as face-to-face. And when we bring them together, we want to inspire them so that they know that although they've been through such traumatic experiences, that these experiences don't define their future. And that's the reason why we called we're called Amor Destiny, which means to love your destiny. So we inspire them to recognize their skills, and then we also empower them to create their own destiny. And what that means is we provide them with mentoring support and also connect them to other experiences that can help elevate them towards building successful futures for themselves. So what we found during COVID is that a lot of our women their mental health was significantly impacted. As everybody has spoken, their voices were not being heard. And if we could move on to the next slide, please. So we asked the women, you know, how they were doing, and 89% of them told us that they wanted to have more support. So then what we went away and did, we further developed our mentoring program, which is called Destiny Creators Mentoring Program. And we included a 4-month focus just on their well-being. And the reason for that, as I said, is because of the impact that mental health was having on the women, and they weren't able to access services. We almost overnight, because of COVID, turned into what we would call like a crisis support to women, which is not what we were designed to do. And we simply couldn't just stop supporting women when they're coming to us telling us that they have these really serious mental health pressures. So we decided to create weekly focuses to support them with their well-being, and they also did this one-to-one with some of our well-being practitioners. And then we also employed a counsellor, because some of our women were having trouble because of their immigration barriers with accessing support services. So we filled in that gap for the women. If we could move on to the next slide, please. Sorry. Okay. So our services then evolved into mentoring and advocacy, because what we were finding is that when they were coming through to us and the issues they were experiencing as a result of COVID, were things related to immigration barriers and extreme deprivation. Some of our women have been trafficked and sexually exploited. So it required for us to kind of establish and separate services so that we could clearly kind of track what type of service support people were needing to access. So there's the mentoring program and the advocacy support. And we provided them also with a one-to-one mentor as well, so that they could have somebody that was checking in with them on a weekly basis. And we found that really beneficial, so that it was more tailored around understanding their needs and developing coping mechanisms through the pandemic. And what we found as well is that when we were engaging with others, like organizations, like mainstream organizations, we found that there was this lack of kind of trauma-informed approaches, especially when dealing with social care, because some of our women, as we mentioned, were a care experience and were experiencing challenges with their mental health, which then also, as a result, kind of triggered actions from the local authority social services. So for us, we kind of stepped in on a few occasions to kind of support some of these women, to advocate for them, and to let people know, you know, that this is a really unusual situation that these people have been placed in, and, you know, we should really be listening to what they're saying, and not judging them, and trying to rush in and trying to have this action, which is quite traumatizing in itself, the process. And if we could move on to the next slide, please. So overcoming some of the barriers that we experienced during the pandemic, these barriers of our women that we support were things such as, like I said, mental health, poverty. Some of our women were having issues with their jobs because obviously people's employment was at risk. And then also we had as I mentioned earlier on, immigration issues and having access to that free social justice. And we simply just responded to those needs. We found it incredibly hard to get the right support for people from what you would call the mainstream services, because they were just over capacity, the capacities were just overflowing, and often people were not picking up the phone. I don't know if anybody else that's spoken today had similar experiences when supporting people, that it was just very, very challenging trying to get anybody any help. So what we did is we decided to go to services that are grassroots, so people like myself who are in the community, who are supporting the needs of the community. So if we could move on to the next slide, please. So then what this saw us move towards was gaining support from organisations with regards to funding. We built partnerships as well with organisations that were able to offer our women free legal support, as well as providing support with homelessness prevention. And we were able to navigate forward in a way. As a result of the way that we kind of adapted ourselves and were able to build those relationships, we were able to help reach 18 women and girls through mentoring on the programme. We have women who are accessing the counselling support and who are still, and that's with thanks to support from Safe Lives Circle Fund grant, as well as support from Arnold Clark. We have also assisted with food parcels as well. As I said earlier, we had issues with deep deprivation, and food was one of the real serious issues that people were experiencing. So we were able to get support, people giving us food donations locally, and again, we built friends in other areas, which I'll share with you a little bit later on. I'm just quite mindful of my time. I'm just looking at the time now. So what I'm going to do is I am going to ask you if you could move on to the next slide, please. Okay. So then through our intervention, and we asked the women recently who were on the programme, the Destiny Creators Mentoring Programme, how they found the programme. And as mentioned, we had to extend our programme, which initially was supposed to focus on helping them kind of build their future and creating their destiny through employability skills, business startup workshop, but we had to get the mental health. And they, sorry, recording paused. Am I still live on here?
Yep, continue, my dear, but we only have about 1 minute left, okay?
Okay, no problem. So if you would like to know more about the work that we do, you're more than welcome to get in touch with me. I will put the details in the chat after this. And I just wanted to leave you with one lasting kind of word, in that know that your voice is so important, and that your voice really is being heard, as you've heard it this evening through all of us and that has spoken, that we do hear you, and it's really important for you to keep using that voice. So thank you so much for listening. Sorry for running over time, and I'm going to hand back over to the core team.
Okay, thank you so much, Annie. Listen, we are running so over time, so I'm going to go straight into our next speaker. But Annie, once again, thank you so much for presenting to us as well. And please, can you put your details? The co-host has asked you to start your video. Am I not on my video? Oh my God, sorry guys. Sorry. Can I ask you, or just Annie, just to put your details in the chat as well, so everyone has access to it as well? Is that okay? All right, let's go over to our last speaker, and then we're going to go into a breakout room, and then when we come out of the breakout room, we're going to ask Poetic Jess to do one more poetry before we go into the main feedback of the breakout rooms. So, correct, over to you, sir.
Okay, our last speaker is Keval Sachdev. He's from an organisation called Ekiam UK, and really, I'm going to let Keval explain all about Ekiam UK, and I'm proud to be associated with this charity and working with Keval. So, Keval, I'm going to let you crack it on. Yeah, thank you.
Hi everyone, hope you can hear me okay there. My name is Keval, as Kirit mentioned. We run a charity, an organisation that supports young children up to young adults aged from 8 to 24. We support with a variety of issues, ranging from gang culture, racism, online bullying, and mental health. One thing we found with all of the issues that we deal with, they have elements of mental health involved when we're speaking to the youth, and the effects and impacts that some of these other labels or topics that we, I guess, brandish certain things under, they all have elements of mental health involved. When speaking to Corinne, the organizer, I want to take a slightly different approach into what I deliver to all of you today. I just wanted to quickly shout out Jermaine. I know he's not with us anymore, but when he mentioned about the myths and the things that are put out by the media surrounding youth, I think it's a long time that we start addressing a lot of these things. And he mentioned solidarity. A lot of us smaller organizations coming together and having more of a united front. The reason I chose the name Ekiam, it's a Sanskrit word for unity, for oneness, for harmonious living. And in Sanskrit, there's various interpretations of different words, but Ekiam is all about being together. And as our tagline there says, it's about collectivism over individualism. Armani Simpson, another person who, one of our speakers earlier, I want to thank all the speakers, they all shared something brilliant today, but in terms of a personal connection, I've been a victim to knife crime myself, and hearing that Armani Simpson, what he went through and how severe it was, we can only thank God that he is here with us and able to share his story. So thank you so much for that, Armani. There's a lot that we can probably discuss. Going into what I wanted to talk about quickly, the reason I took a different approach is, like I said, we do work with youth. So I wanted to ask them, I said, I'm going to be featured on this session. This is what we're going to be discussing. And let me try and put what your thoughts are. What is mental health to young people, wellness? Do you get offered support at schools, colleges? What type of support do you get, etc., etc.? We started a very light-hearted conversation once they found out what I was coming on here for, and I'm just going to give you some of the points they've given us, and I'll keep it as simple as that. So I spoke to 6 local youth, and they spoke to their friends. They had a week or so last week, and they've come back to me this weekend, and literally just today, before we came onto this, I was in a meeting for about an hour with them. They were really happy about the relaxed approach we had today over what we discussed, but what they wanted to say, and what I'm doing today, is I'm representing Ekiam UK, but also the voice of our local youth. The main point that they said is the recognition that there is an issue from their point of view. How did they recognize if they might be suffering from a mental health issue or may need to seek help? How do they judge that? They get told about hormones, puberty, a lot of things that you're going through at that age, peer pressure. But then once you've taken all of that away from their mind, how do they recognize whether they're suffering from something? Sometimes it may be very obvious, but to a lot of people, what they say is that sometimes the stories they hear and how people's journey started and it got worse, sometimes they can relate to some of that, but how do they recognize if they're feeling it? And maybe someone who hasn't heard the stories might never be able to recognize that they've got these issues. Also, are they getting the right awareness and the appropriate information. One of the gentlemen today, he's a young lad, 16, they've just done their GCSEs. He said there was a lot of talk in their schools about mental health awareness. People came in, they did PowerPoint presentations, and then they were gone. No contact details, believe it or not. You know, to go into a school, provide all this information, but not leave contact details. And where there were contact details, there was a lot of other steps to take. It wasn't as easy getting the support. Now, from a BAME point of view, what a lot of the people said was the language, the culture, the people providing the support sometimes don't understand some of the issues that may occur within certain cultures, traditions, religions, whatever it might be. They wanted that addressed as well. They said there's not enough representation from people of their own communities. So we can take that as we want. This is coming straight from them. One of the other things that they mentioned is what is a healthy mind and what is unhealthy and at what ages. So for example, as they expanded on that slightly, they were asking, is there a standard model of mental health wellness that all humans are measured to or against? Is there something that you would think in your head, or that they can recognize that, right, I actually think I need to find support? Or are they putting it down to other issues in their life or whatever it might be? And sometimes these issues are getting worse. This is something they wanted to bring up. How do they seek help if they don't know they need help? So again, I've spoke a bit about that. Also, young children who live with parents who suffer from mental health issues but aren't seeking support or don't get the correct support or haven't been offered the support, whatever the case may be. But children living in these environments, they're finding it difficult. And sometimes, according to them, you know, I can only imagine myself as well, but from what I'm being told and what we're working with here on the front line with the youth is that there's people, their guardians, sometimes suffering from mental health issues and not aware of it or not understanding it. And then sometimes that's impacting the younger people, especially some of their siblings, etc., at a younger age. So there's a lot of things there that I think people of our generation, with the resources we have and the voice that we can provide for the youth, we do need to start addressing some of these issues. And all I can say is this is coming from them directly. Now, another thing they mentioned is we're comparing our time as youth to their time as a youth. What they're saying to me is that the generations were totally different. Myself, when I was young, when I explained what life was like to me in the youth, I can easily relate more easier to someone probably from even someone from the 1800s, 1700s in terms of the types of activities we did, the freedoms we had, how our parents were, whereas the lifestyle the children are living now and what they're exposed to on social media, they're saying that their uncles, their aunties, their older cousins, whoever, they don't appreciate that they're on their timelines. They're sharing stuff that is potentially adult material or meant to be shared with adults, or, you know, in maybe in a social group of peers, not on their public timelines where younger people who have access to this kind of information, and we know they have access to devices, the information, the social media side of things as well, it's very, very powerful in terms of how it's influencing the youth. We all know that, but are we really aware of what they're accessing online, etc., etc.? So there's a lot of things about the way we live our lives as adults and people from our generation, what we expose the youth to. Have we given them exposure to too much of an adult life, and have they lost their childhood to a certain extent? And in summary, basically one of the things that they said today, and this is from the youth, and I wanted to use this as a summary because I found it powerful. They said that we, as in our generation, they said it to me as in you, but they're saying we, as in all of us here, we have given the youth of today too much power, but not enough relevant support to deal with that. The older generations created issues for youth without providing the relevant support. So all these things like the social media, the types of cultures we create in terms of gang culture, the way a lot of us, I don't know how much people are exposed in terms of gang culture, etc., etc. But when I was growing up, there was maybe people in their 20s, 30s who were known in the streets and maybe did whatever. Nowadays, it's groups of 18-year-olds that run the streets, and it's not the older generation. So that power has been taken away, and now they've got this power, they've got the money, and it's creating so many more issues that are interlinked with lots of various things we deal with, from gang culture, domestic abuse, racism online. And I know I've gone on a bit there, but I just wanted to approach this from the youth aspect and just really give out what feedback they've given to me, rather than give a personal story for myself. So I hope that was useful, and I hope you know, we can all take something away from that. And especially for me, I would like to say, just please be careful about who is on your timelines and what you do share and who you're sharing with. For me, that was a massive one. So thank you for your time. And I just wanted to thank all the speakers today. Sandeep, I've worked with in the past, Kirit, the host, everyone else who's been on today, from Pertis, Jess, Sharifa, and especially Armani and Jermaine as well, because you know, I can really relate to them on a personal level. So I definitely will be getting in touch with them soon as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kevin. Listen, you mentioned everybody apart from me, so I don't know if I should just
Sorry,
now, you know what I'm saying? Huh? You said everybody except for me, man. What's happening?
Sorry, Andrew.
Listen, can you just mention that thing that you said, too much power? I couldn't write it down in time. So please just because we want to get that for the recording. So too much power, but not enough.
Not the relevant support. We've given them too much power and not relevant support to deal with that power that we've given them.
Excellent. No, thank you so much for that as well. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, time is moving on. But first, as I said, we need to hear from the young people. So this is your time now. So am I right, Correct? Am I right that we're going into breakout rooms? Yeah, we're going into the breakout rooms now, yeah? Excellent, thank you. So what we're going to do, we're going to go into breakout rooms, and I think everyone has already been assigned a breakout room. I'm going to ask Corinne just to make sure and shout me out. And what we're doing, it's a 15 minutes. So what we want you guys to do is be precise, try and let everyone have enough time to get their point over and talk. And then what we want is at least 3 points out of your breakout room. Now, each breakout room has got different topics, and I think we're just putting you over the 5 breakout rooms, okay? So can I ask the host to start moving us over? And then when we come back, we're going to have one more poem from Poetic Jess, and then we're going to feedback on what we've discussed, and then the final words and what's next. So can I ask?
Thanks for your patience as well, because this was powerful to listen to our guest speakers.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, so please, something should appear on your screen. Please press join, and let's go and have a discussion. 15 minutes. So Karoon, we've got 15 minutes, which brings us up to roughly 8:10.
Hello, Andrew.
Hello, hello. Are we back?
Just showing you I didn't forget you, Andrew.
Who is that?
Ah,
listen, thank you so much, man. Thank you. We are up to 41 people, so I'm assuming we had 68, 70 people going in. So I'm assuming we haven't lost so many. Karun, are you here?
I'm here. How you doing, Andrew? You all right?
I'm doing well. How are we? Has everybody joined us back, or?
Let me see. We got 41 people here.
Yeah.
I think there was 60. I think there was 70 before. So
that's right.
Maybe there's one room that's still open. Let me just double check. Thanks.
Thank you. Is it okay to put some of the, oops, all rooms are closed? Okay. And the Leicester versus, oh, so have we lost all the Leicester people and the West Ham people? All right, thank you so much. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna bring Poetic Jess in, just so that we can just have a little calm down before we go into the feedback session. So Poetic Jess, over to you.
Hi, thank you again for having me. Oh, sorry, just got an email. But yeah, so I'm just going to uplift your spirits. I'm going to motivate you with some inspirational spoken word. I wrote this for young people during the COVID, and not just for young people, but for everyone. People were on furlough, people lost their jobs. It wasn't the easiest. So here we go. Did you know that you were graced for purpose? And everything that you went through in your life, you went through on purpose, only for you to give birth to your purpose. You see, you were designed for destiny. You were called to be mighty. You are a landmark of greatness. Your character is courageous. Your energy is contagious. Your mindset is blameless. You are giving and gracious. You are not selfish, but you are selfless. And it's not that you do not think about yourself, you just think of yourself less. So get rid of all that heavy weight so that you can become weightless, because today you will understand that excess isn't needed for access. And please, close that final chapter in your life. You are not a book. You cannot be read, but you are the Kindle. You are the light to the flame. Just allow the Lord to light you like matches. The world can't match this, because you are matchless. And please, stop going back to see if they finally understand you. If they didn't understand you back then and you've grown, why would they understand you now when you've come into your own? Dust off your crown, go sit on your throne, because you are the star that everyone is wishing on. It's your hour, it's your season, and your set time has come. So please, before you quit, remember why you started. Remember why you lit your flame, and remember why you sparked it. Remember why your peak is still worth climbing, and why you can't stop, and why you've got to keep on striving. Remember, everything happens in good timing. It's all about aligning and appointed timing. It's so easy for you to walk away because you feel like you're being left behind in your own lane. You keep swerving from lane to lane, and now you find yourself in the watchman's lane. You sit on watchman's lane. Some of you can't pass memory lane. What a shame. Maybe you slipped, you tripped, and you can't even pass it. Can't call it the past because you haven't passed it, and now you mask it. Well, I'm so happy that life today is going to come and give you a slap in the face, only for you to touch base with yourself because you've been sleeping on yourself. But listen, don't ever let your setbacks set you back. And if you take a blow, you better blow back. Let your setbacks know that they're never going to blow back. Know that your mind is like soil, and whatever seed you plant will unfold. I've been told the very trees, they lose their leaves only to blossom in the summer. That means you are on the come up. Just realign, growing from the ground up. You are a vine. Stop focusing on life the wrong way. Focus on your finish line. See, your race is not their race. So stop comparing your beginning to somebody else's middle. Lanes are parallel, and guess what? We're all just in the middle. Don't ever think that your failure is defeat. Don't ever think that your progress is little. Do not choose to be defeated because you are not an inconvenience. What you are is a convenience, undefeated. And if I can get you to believe this, then lesson 1 is completed. In fact, guys, I know you're on mute, but just affirm yourself in this meeting. Affirm yourself today and say, this being is becoming. Say, this being is upcoming. Say, this being is forthcoming. Listen, this being is coming back for everything that they ever stole from me. My confidence, my self-esteem, my dignity, and my sanity. Now is the time that we no longer stop. But we just take pauses. We don't look back, but we keep moving forward. So before you quit, remember why you started. Remember why you lit your flame, and remember why you sparked it. Remember why your peak is still worth climbing, and why you can't stop, and why you've got to keep on climbing, and why you can't stop, and why you've got to keep on fighting, and why you can't stop, and why you've got to keep on shining, and why you can't stop, and why you've got to keep on thriving, and why you can't stop, and why you and you and you and you in the blue, why you've got to keep on striving. I'm Poetess Jess. Thank you so much for having me. You can find me on Poetess Jess Official. Yeah, just hit me up. Thank you thank you so much.
Wow. Guys, emojis, that love. Jess, look at all the feedback in the chat, man. It's blowing up. Woo! All right, listen, let's just go straight to the feedback. Is my partner in crime here? Mr. Currit, are you still around?
Yes, I'm still here, and we're going to...
Excellent, sir. Do you want to take over this bit and let's get everyone feeding back?
Sure,
guys, we've only got 12 minutes to go, so please bear with us, 12 more minutes.
So, shall we start off with Breakout Room 1, which was the mental health group? And I think Sandeep took some notes, so Sandeep?
Yeah, so we had in our Breakout Room 1, our focus was coping with mental health during the pandemic. We discussed a lot of issues in that session, but the key bits were some of the issues that young people are facing, which we collectively thought about, is a multifaceted self-identity. They're confused in terms of whether they are too British or too Indian, or not enough British and not enough Indian. It's that conflict between their identity that we think collectively is a challenge for young people at the moment. We were also discussing just general knowledge and education just not there for young people, or not positioning at the right level to young people. So it's things like not knowing the rules to the Equality Act and all these different things. So I guess it's the education and knowledge we were saying collectively that young people need to know more and pitched at them properly. Then we also mentioned general stigma and discrimination that's still happening in the local community at all levels, locally, regionally, and nationally. We also mentioned, so we need to do something about that. We also mentioned...
We're going to stop there, but I think we'll put them in the chat in terms of the other recommendation that came out of it. So thank you. Okay, Breakout Room 2. Who's your presenter who's going to feed back?
Was that the media one?
Just one sec, I'll just find it.
I don't remember which number Breakout Room it was. If it was the media one, then it's
yes, that's the media one.
Yes, it was.
Yes.
It was that.
Then it's Hina, who I can't see anymore. I'm hoping she's there.
Yep.
Hina.
Oh, she's still there. Yes. Are you able to feed back?
One minute, 90 seconds feedback, if that's just... Sorry.
Someone needs to unmute her, I think.
Okay, right. I'm on. Okay, thanks. I'll be really quick. We were talking a bit about a lot of blame was put on Black and Asian communities for spreading the coronavirus and spreading the virus. We were also talking about the kind of negative portrayal of us in the media and how that kind of gets shared on like personal WhatsApp groups, and whether that kind of perpetuates negative views of ourselves. And we also talked a bit about, someone also mentioned about how like there was a lot of confusing information and how that would impact on mental health, which is, you know, is a big issue. We've already talked about that all evening. So I think, yeah, I think I've boiled it down. Less than 90 seconds. How about that?
Thank you, Hina. And again, the recommendations that any kind of suggestions that we, sorry, any recommendations you put in the chat as well, so we capture them. Breakout room 3, can we have, which was Lee, that was your group. Race equality agenda over the pandemic. Can we unmute Lee?
Yes, thank you. So yes, we discussed basically George Floyd, how the video impacted on us, the following Black Lives Matter movement, and also the pushback and gaslighting we've had from some in the government, and how that affected us. So a lot agreed with my approach to the video, and that haven't watched it. Certainly haven't watched it in full. Maybe I've seen 5 seconds of it, and that's all they need to see. And I've gone out of their way to avoid it since it was being shown so regularly, because obviously that was traumatic. Also, apparently, it's brought up issues at work for some people. So some people now communicate differently at work. It's made for some uncomfortable conversations, but also maybe some progressive changes as well. And some people have felt that to process that, rather than getting into difficult conversations or arguments with those who don't want to admit that racism is an issue in this country, they've avoided such conversations and are seeking to have those kind of conversations in a safe space, maybe in a therapeutic space. So I think a recurring theme was that we had to make special efforts to protect our mental health in light of the whole George Floyd and the domino effect that it had.
Thanks for that. Can we go to Breakout Room 4? And that was Andrew.
That was us. Do we have, is Akpeshal around? If he's around. If not, I will quickly.
The COVID vaccine.
Yeah, so we were talking about the COVID vaccine. Okay, so okay, let me just quickly write down the point. So we thought that not related, that it was not related, was too much promotion, and not related to the BME people. But that was question number 4, which was have the campaigns been too much targeted at BME people? We talked about the distrust of government, and it was a negative experience as well. And if someone dies, if someone dies of the COVID, it looks compared to adverse reaction. So there's not a lot of press around people dying, but there's a lot of press around, no, beg your pardon, the other way around. There's a lot of press about people dying, but not a lot of press around the adverse reactions to the vaccine. And the last one was about the no jab and no job policy as well. And a lot of people are feeling that they're being coerced. What will happen if, regarding the shortage of staff, considering that a lot of our BME people are working within some of those low paid roles, and a lot of us feel like it's been fear mongering as well. So a lot of us saying we do not agree with the no jab, no job policy.
Thank you, Andrew. And final group was Breakout 5.
Hi. Yeah, we were discussing youth crime in Breakout Room. Is that Kirit's? Yeah, we were discussing. Can you hear me okay there, Andrew?
Yeah, we can hear you. I can hear you.
Brilliant. We were discussing youth crime, And some of the things that we discussed is that the organizations need to be a bit more proactive. Can we mute?
I think that's Kurt. I don't know what's up. Something might be wrong with his system, but you continue, sir.
Just trying to mute him. All right, so yeah, organizations need to be a bit more proactive, work on wellness at an early intervention stage, teaching youth about making better choices and the choice theory training. Also working on their self-esteem and confidence in order to prevent issues during potentially teenage years, where they are more likely to be involved in crime and other activities that we see through generations, especially from, I would say, younger men from certain communities. As we know, we do need to focus more in these areas, work better, and policing in the community has to start from the communities and the parents as well, before we start putting blame culture onto outside organizations. We do need to work a bit more closer within our own communities, and in form of parenting as well. We do need to look at that as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Cavell. I'm not sure if Kurt is still around. I think we were losing him in the distance. But listen, guys, all I can say is thank you so much for attending today. I'm going to ask Kunle just to unmute himself and maybe just give the final words. But just to say that today's session was in partnership with the Caribbean and African Health Network, Croydon BME Forum, Race on the Agenda, South Asian Health Advice, Voice for Change, Runnymede, and all our other lovely partners as well. So thank you everyone for joining us today, and making it just making it really, really good and a good discussion. Kunle, are you here to say the final words?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
I think it's been a really good session, and we've covered a lot of ground, perhaps maybe in some ways too much. But I think that what I got out of today was the need for people to be aware of the kind of support services that are available to people. That's the first thing. And secondly, in terms of the question of empowerment and confidence, we need to be sure about the messages that our young people are getting, are messages of positivity that enable them to actually build and develop themselves to reach their, I suppose, true potential. There's a tendency, I think, for us to mix these things up sometimes, in terms of both focusing on the negative, but then demanding that people see the positive in life. And I think we need to be, as I suppose, elders, more careful about how we actually present the outside world, and certainly that people get the best presentation of what they can potentially do to achieve change, both for themselves as individuals, but also to make a positive contribution in relation to society. So I'm going to say a big thank you to Andrew and Kirit for all the work they've put into this with Kyron and a number of other people. I hope that some of my colleagues on court will have taken note of the contributions that people have been making. And I hope that some of the areas that people have picked up on, like mental health, like what's happening in race equality, like the kind of gender issues that have been raised, are going to be picked up in future sessions and in a bit more in-depth. So we can really kind of drill down into some of these subjects and make sense of them for people. So with that, I'll just say it's been great, and there's more to come. So well done to all.
Excellent. Thank you, Kunle. And once again, I just personally just want to thank all of our speakers. Poetic Dress, thank you so much for blessing us with those 2 poems. Karun as well, listen, thank you so much for organizing this. I know, too often, we come to events like this, but we actually do not know all the work that has happened behind it as well. So big round of applause for Karun for bringing us all together again. Thank you, everyone. Please enjoy yourselves. more information will be coming out regarding CORE and all our activities. So please join onto our mailing list if you're not on there already. So once again, thank you again. And yeah, watch out for part two. Part 2 is coming up. Thank you.
Thank you very much.